Well, hello everyone. Hope the apocalypse is treating you well. We've got a rare treat today. We've got another special guest. Truithness is joining us to talk about his Cracken list and his exploits in the Vassal World Cup.
Hi, good morning.
So I distinctly remember that somebody asked about Kraken, and then I distinctly can't find the comment anymore, which means I may have imagined that somebody asked about Kraken, and they may have been asking about the Separatist Admiral. But we'll crack on anyway. um, and so I said, like, I haven't actually played Kraken an awful lot since 1.5. And I will get there eventually, but the play stuff in 1.5 backlog is meeting the Wave 10 is now available on TTS backlog. And the Italian TTS tournament and a couple of other side projects. So I said I'd bring in the expert. So, truth is, what do you enjoy about Kraken?
No pressure, the expert. Okay. Really, kind of Kraken's more of an enabler of other ships. Geek and I have discussions about this all the time. He loves Leia because of what Leia does. I like Kraken because of what he lets me fly, and that's mainly CR90. Um, he got no changes in 1.5 at all. I mean, no points reduction. He's the exact same commander he always was. Unlike every other commander he competes against. Riken got a little bit of a ding. Kraken tends to compete against him for MSU. Moxma got changed. Leia got changed. They're all MSU commanders, but Kraken got is the same. So really, it's more about he makes small ships just blanket better for Rebel. Um, and anybody who's seen any of my other stuff, I tend to like CR90s with engine techs. The only crazy son of a gun in the world that uses engine techs is CR90s. But it's just the flexibility of that upgrade combined with a very flexible ship. It's just stupid amounts of fun to fly, and Kraken makes it better. And it's also a meta call right now. You're seeing more and more, like especially in like separatist lists, they want to double arc a lot. They have smaller dice pools right now. They want to hit you with those double arcs, and Kraken helps against both shots. And you're also seeing a lot more salvo. And normally salvo against small is usually a big deal. Just taking a dice off of that salvo every single time builds up over time. So you have the meta combined with just evade ships being better in 1.5, which is kind of just smashes all together to make Kraken suddenly, despite no change, feel like a fairly different commander.
Yeah, like I think it's the context and against onagers as well and stuff. He does really help them
Yeah,
out.
yeah, he does. He definitely does. Um, what's up, buddy? Oh yeah, what's your question? Sorry, my son's got a
That's
water.
all right.
What's up, buddy? You want to say hi? No.
We have our assistant sound technician if he does want to say hi.
Yes. He's just kind of pacing. Um, so it's yes, onagers in particular, like and one of the reasons I just continue to love CR9's Engine X is onager. You can just kind of tell an onager to get bent and dodge that initial turn one shot pretty easy.
But I suppose you're saying you're not the master, but the Vassal World Cup tables kind of suggest you might be.
I'm definitely having a good time. I'm having a lot of good luck for one. Like my match against Sam, anytime I play Sam, is always this horrible nightmare bloodbath. We've only played competitively a couple times, but we'll play on Vassal consistently. And he's just, I love playing him because, especially in these non-competitive games, we're both laid back. It goes pretty quick. Um, and he loves to try crazy things. And unfortunately for everyone else, a lot of those crazy ideas become horrible, horrible, horrible nightmares of death. And every time we play, it's always this wonderful bloodbath of just destruction. We don't play. Neither of us play conservatively. So it's all or nothing. Everything's going to explode. So getting him in the second round of Swiss was not ideal. um, but I just sheer dumb luck of 3 straight crits. So he starts the game cutting hard right to try and hit one of the CR90s with ignition shot. To do that, he hits an asteroid. So what does he get in the first one? Projector missile line. 5 shields, just gone right off the bat from the onager. He then gets stuck on the same asteroid, hits it again, and what does he get? I can't remember the name of it, but it's the crit that does not allow you to shoot against obstructed targets. Oops.
Oh, yes.
My entire fleet is now completely untargetable for the onager. So then he's trying to get away. He's got a repair command queued up. I kind of figured out what's happening. He takes a crit from a CR90, and what does he get? Oh, it's a cum noise. I get to choose a stop command. So here's your squadron command. Oh well.
And
So total dumb sheer luck that I managed to get away from Sam with as much as I did, because I misplayed my MC30. His Architect was just golden, and I had Morna and Merrick trying to get my CR90s. I had 2 ships like get away with like 1 hull or something. Maybe it was only 1, but yeah, that was a rough one. And then I got Louis Andre, and that freaking potato from hell. That I love what he's done with that ship. It's just I honestly think it might actually be tougher than an Ag-8 Liberty with EST, because he has a lot of flexibility. Like I imagine against other ships, large ships that want to do large amounts of bursts, he probably goes double brace. But a fleet like mine that's MSU, he can go double evade, which was just horrible. Trying to get damage to stick on that thing with 2 evades just stunk. And then I got it down to 1 stinking hull, and was oh, there's the reinforced blast doors. Oh, and he's got his brace back because of Waylex. Oh, jeez, I'm gonna blow everything on this guy. So it took I shot it with every single ship in 1 turn, and then I still needed a double arc from my MC30 to kill it. Then I had to try and chase down his CR90 with engine techs, and I had a little bit of my own nightmare understanding of the nightmare everybody else deals with me. Like, oh crap, I gotta chase that thing down. Oh boy. So really, it's just more a matter of I have a lot of experience with those CR90s and engine techs, and play extremely aggressively. I have a bad habit of not being able to pick 6-5 strategically advantageous to do so. And it's definitely blown up in my face before. But it's just more fun. It's more fun to do that, play that way. And who knows? This coming week, I'll probably run into somebody who just makes me pay for it, and it'll all blow up in my face. But hey, that's half the fun.
yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, like, we're not playing for the World Cup or the Stanley Cup or anything important. We're playing to have fun, and if you're running it like a madman and you're enjoying running it like a madman, like if you do it enough times, it's not that mad. It's just it's the knife edge, And I think with Rebels, they kind of like I think when I was first playing, I said I enjoy the Rebels more because if you're up against the Imperials, you're like fencing with a tiger. You can stab them and stab them and stab them, but if you go the wrong way, you're going to get eaten. But
Yes.
it's that fun puzzle you get when playing stuff like 3 CR90s.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know I think my playstyle definitely the first time people deal with it, I have an advantage in that because they don't expect me to be as everybody. A lot of Armada games I tend to notice are fairly cagey. Like Aresius, he's like the king of efficiency when I watch him play. He knows exactly what he needs to kill, and then he just disengages, gets what he needs. He's got his 7. He's done. Like I watched him do it to Boba Fett. He kills what he needs to kill, jets that Liberty out of there, and he's done. And I think most competitive Armada players are like that. I am not. I throw everything at everything, 100% all the time. It's just, I think it just takes people off guard that they have a CR90 ready to get at close range of their front arc on the second turn. I did that to. I apologize for forgetting the screen name. That was my first Swiss match. Is I just threw CR90 pretty much right at an honor, um, and had no problem with it sitting in its front arc to prevent it from going anywhere on turn two. I move in on turn one. It's got a side arc. I jet the engines in. I sit it right in front of the Honor's front arc because it's going speed one. And yeah, that CR9 is going to die, but the Onager is not going anywhere. And then everything else closes around it, kill the Onager, and then move on to the other ship.
Yeah.
So it's not something you see most people do. And I think if somebody plays me a second time, they recognize that I'm just a lunatic and will often make me pay for it. Duckbird in particular, she's a local player for me. She's part of our area, and she has my number. I mean, the only way I get anything on her at this point is I surprise her in some way, shape, or form, because she is just excellent. I think she's been taking a break lately, so you haven't seen her a lot on Vassal or TTS, but she has an eye for the game that is matched by few, I think.
And she wins with some janky stuff as well.
Yes,
Like,
she loves jank. Like she a lot of I think my list is actually fairly similar to what she ran at Worlds, but she ran it with freaking Mayday. And she got in the top 10. So that should tell you the kind of player she is. She's just extremely meticulous.
didn't she take a Palpatine list and do something
Yes,
horrendously
she
good?
just barely missed the cut at the last Nova Open with I think it was Palpatine and some Architens, and then a bunch of Decimators.
And like Nova is just behind like Gen Con and Worlds as kind of the toughest competition in the US, really.
Yeah. Did we have only? Yeah, that is old nationals. I think Las Vegas Open is similar. I know she and Sam kind of developed that list he ran at Las Vegas together, and that's that weird, janky Radis with a potato and a Liberty and gob of squads.
And yeah, it was the ATN, the Advanced Transponder Network, before 1.5.
That's it.
Yeah, it was.
And that gives you an idea of what kind of crazy list she kind of comes up with that just work. It's very aggravating. You play it all the time. Yeah, so and Nova Open is weird because you do have people coming from out of town, but the Nova meta is, if you play, I like to call, they have 2 day ones. They have Thursday and Friday, and then top 2 of each day, and then the next 4 combined are the ones that advance to the last day. And Thursday I tend to call local day, because that is generally the local players that, they're federal employees, they just take the day off, it's a day trip, they're not having to worry about long drive times, so they just, take the day off and go to the Nova Open instead of going to work. So you show up and look at those tables on Thursday, and it is the weirdest list you will ever see, because it's mostly casual players, and the local meta just isn't right. It's just it is nothing like what you see globally. Like, nobody likes squadrons all that much, so you don't see a whole lot of squadrons, so it kind of allows a squadronless player to do better than you normally think. And it's incredibly Imperial. I think it was like multiple years running, there were more ISDs on tables total players.
Okay.
That happened like 2 years in a row, and it's a very strange experience. Like, so winning Nova is weird. It almost feels like an asterisk, because you're not dealing with a normal meta in any way, shape, or form. It's just you are king of the trash heap. No, that's just too mean. It's not a bad meta. It's got a lot of great players. It's just everyone plays so much different than the global meta.
I would like to distance myself from any shade thrown on Nova winners. Please
Hey,
direct all your
I'm a
fire
Nova
to
winner. I'm a Nova winner, and I get to throw shade at Meta actually all I want.
You can.
Like God, who
I
is that?
don't. But
And then I don't think we've had a repeat winner at Nova, have we? Oh no, I think we did. I think it was ways back though. It was the guy who did the Gen Con special in the early days. I think he won Nova a couple,
okay.
and then just disappeared.
As those mysterious do. It kind of sounds like the Spanish meta, because I really want to know what's going on in the Spanish meta.
Yeah,
With that
yeah,
regional
no
where it won
kidding.
the Interdictor and the SSD won it. So I'm like,
Yes.
what was going on in that tournament?
What is yes? That is exactly what Nova often feels like. It's like what are we doing?
And if you're in the Spanish meta and you're watching this right now, comment and we'll have you on and get an explanation. I don't
Yes,
care
please.
how
Yes,
bad
please
your
tell
English
me
is,
what
we'll
is going.
figure it out.
We were talking about Kraken at some point, weren't
We
we?
were. We were. We were talking about some of your Vassal World Cups, which we're going to get later on, but we wandered into. So you've got Louis Andre, you've got Sam, you've got unnamed player with some other
Yeah, I
list.
feel horrible. I can't remember his name. Yeah, he had a Tiger and a
Was
bunch
it
of Decimator.
was it
And I'm on my phone unfortunately, so I can't really look it up.
well, it
But
wasn't a pod game then.
no, it wasn't.
Um
No, I got Paul Heaver in my freaking pod. That was and Paul's another one that's actually local. And if you don't know Paul Heaver, you clearly don't follow X-Wing.
I
Paul
don't,
Heaver is
but
a
even I know it.
Paul Heaver is like a multiple time X-Wing world champion. He's got some of the most ridiculous natural gaming instincts for these games I've ever seen. And he only plays Armado like come prime championship time. So we see him like one or two times a year. He's just kind of messing around. And somehow he's another one that just takes a mess around list and just destroys you with it. And his was a tough match in the pod play
Yeah,
because
I like
he just
that's
brings
four
he had a
munis.
wall of it's a wall of munis. Like you don't think of it until you don't think it's much until you're like, oh wait, I can't kill any of them. It got to the point I barely killed the second munificent to make it a decent win, but it was a close thing.
Well,
Because
Kraken is anybody else. If you're running anybody else apart from Kraken, you're in a lot of trouble with those ships.
yes, and that definitely helped me because I was they're all soloing, and two dice goes down to one, and I'm evading it, so I'm not taking much salvo damage, unlike a lot of them.
But you've got to stay out of those front arcs because one front arc will just munch you.
I'd be surprised actually. So a lot of the 1.5 changes make the arcs you think you're not going to survive much more manageable. Take the Onager for example. So the Sam list or the Sam match, he had a CR90 dead to rights, for, ignition close range, and it toss an evade out, and oh look, it's only 3 damage.
So the CR90 you put in front of him.
So not intentionally. Sam had a good maneuver, and it took him to the asteroid. So I guess maybe not a good maneuver, but he recognized he had a shot on a CR90, so he turned the Onager hard onto a CR90 that had already moved, and had a close range ignition shot to start off his. So he had the full ignition battery. He dropped a red. I think he had 3 reds, 3 blacks, if I'm remembering the shot correctly. And he rolled it. He got, I think, 6 damage. Actually, no, I think he rolled 7 natural damage, but 2 doubles, tossed the evade out the door, and oh, look, 7's only 3 now.
Well, this is Sam's own fault. If he's just going to roll nothing but doubles and get his damage that way, he's going to get evaded.
Yeah, I mean, still only 1 blank on there. So you got
Yeah.
double, you got a double hit crit. I think he had 1 blank on the reds and then 3 hits on the remaining dice. I mean, you look at it that way. If you're willing to chuck that evade out the door, you can do a lot of things that you couldn't do.
And like accuracy tech is fine and it would murder the living daylights out of stuff like this. But if you take accuracy tech against Agate, she's just throwing stuff out the door and your 8-point upgrade is doing nothing. So it's kind of hard.
So the funny thing you say that, because actually that's one of the things I would have liked to have had against Louis Andre, is and one of to critique my own Best of World Cup list, I have a version 2 already and I took a TRC Scout to try and be able to skirmish at long range with the 30 when I couldn't really commit it. I have regretted that pretty much the entire tournament. I really wish I had a torpedo frigate with H9s because, again, I have wanted it in every single one of my Swiss round games. Because, two-factor. One, against Louis Andre, Agate's going to let you brace, but you know what you're going to do? You're going to force the discard instead of just the use.
Yep.
Because Agate's bonus is not just being able to brace when you couldn't. It's also having that extra defense token. So you still want to strip those defense tokens. So I would have actually liked to have had some accuracy tech against Louis Andre. And second, one of the things I'm noticing is there's a lot of heavy flotillas out there. Like, Cherno and Vector. Like, Sam had a Cherno Vector that was easily 40 points. Because I think it had expanded hangar bays on it, too. If I had a freaking H9 torpedo frigate, gone. Just snap of the fingers, it's gone. And that's a huge part of Sam's. And because we're seeing more smalls, it'd be nice to be able to, like against other CR90s, just being able to throw X-Racks out the side, accuracy that redirect, and just blow it away. You can do it to Raiders, you can do it to C70s. It really puts a hurt on hard cells when they can't brace. I'd still love to have it.
I'm just wondering, would you be better off though with an XI7s on it?
No, because I think removing flotillas is a big
True.
thing. Again, it's becoming a big thing again because maybe it's just something that's weird that's happening in the World Cup meta, but I feel like I'm seeing a lot of people rely on those 2 flotillas for their squadrons now instead of worrying about having a ship carrier. Like the Quasar seems to be going out of style.
Yeah, it's so fragile.
It feels like I think onagers are the reason that the Quasar is going out of style. Is that onagers can make that thing hurt really bad, really fast. Whereas the Gazanti is cheaper, smaller target, and can kind of give you similar capability. So I think maybe it'll change, but right now, how the meta stands, I really like the idea of being able to remove flotillas because squadrons is one of the big weaknesses in Kraken. I do a lot to try and mitigate that. Like my squad ball is a lot heavier than I usually do. I think 104 points in. Something like that. So it's Shara, 3 or 4 YTs, and Lando. So they do a good job, but I would prefer the squad fight to be just over rather than have to worry about what happens after my
eating you as you're running away, which is the CR90 nightmare.
Yep. And that's exactly what Sam did. That's how Sam partially salvaged our game, is that I couldn't get rid of those damn flotillas, so he kept being able to move Morna and Merrick with impunity because of Cherno. And he got one of my CR90s trying to get away because of that. So if I had been able to remove that, it would have been a better game for me, I think, because I had to basically rely on ramming them to death because I just got damage to stick.
I think the name you forgot, I've just been checking, is Docta. Would that be
Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, we even chatted about the game and everything. Thank you. I'm terrible with names.
That's
I'm sorry. Of course.
There's so many names, so many games going on.
Yeah. Yep, that sounds about right.
But sure. Look at with the names. So is the key card? I suppose we've touched on this already. Is the key card the engine techs or the TRCs here?
It's definitely it's hard to say. I rely heavily on the engine techs. I know everyone looks at it and goes, "Why in the world are you spending 8 points a ship on this?" But one of the downsides to Kraken is that predictability on where he's going to be. You know, Kraken hammerheads. The reason I don't like to fly how Rasp flies, Rasp Proteus has those 3 Task Force Antilles hammerheads. I've tried it, but there's a predictability to it that I just don't like. Like your opponent's going to know exactly where you're going to be. And even with a Speed 4 CR90, you still only got 2 gears. So it's that extra unpredictability that I really like to have. You know, I have a 3-speed range that I can land on effectively. I got 3, and I've got 5, all the way up to 5. And this engine techs are really good on CR90s. You got the
Yep.
double click, and you can basically whip around 180 degrees. You know, a lot of Armada is getting ships into the fight, getting them done, getting what they can, and then they probably fly off into the distance because they can't come around in a way that still impacts the game. That is not true of CR90's Revenge decks because they can whip around at frighteningly quick pace. And I rely on that. But TRCs are just as big. It wouldn't be the same without being reliably put out that double damage, whatever. Because I treat the dice like the enemy they are. Schmitty gives me crap about it all the time. That I remember my bad rolls more than my good. He clearly has never seen my actual rolls. So, with respect to my fellow podcaster, the dice are the enemy. Treat them as such.
Have the microwave ready for the fuckers once they're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I suppose the one thing, like, I've seen the Charger and the way they do the 180 around a squad ball, so Engine Text really does allow the CR90s to do that.
Yeah.
And that, like,
Yeah, and oddly enough, I don't really like them on the C70s because that natural navigator on the C70
you don't need
is
it.
just wonderful. Oh my goodness, it's great.
Swift
They also,
return. Like,
oh
it's just
yeah, and then they're able to kite in a way that the CR90 CR90 has to be attacking forward. The C70 can, I mean, it can effectively broadside if it really wants to. Put Captain Zach on it, get that extra dice out the side, and you're just spitting 3 out the side, just willy nilly, no problem. And yeah, having that single click at the first joint whenever you want is just so great.
yeah, it's amazing. With the list, you're talking about the 2.0 version, and I won't ask you to spoil any secrets. But would you, if you hate dice that much, would you throw, because you're going to be making a savings moving from the Scout to the Torpedo? Do you think you'd throw in Liberator with an intensify firepower for the 1 turn?
I don't. I've seen that. I don't really feel the need for it.
Yeah.
So I have no problem. I don't do secrets for lists. I don't feel the need. I like talking about them instead and bouncing them off of people. So the second version of the list, I do have to downgrade 1 YT to Rogue Squadron to save some points. But the Torpedo Frigate, it becomes Torpedo Frigate. I put EST on there, and instead of Admiral, it's Foresight, and then it's H9s. And I waffle all the time whether I want to take external racks or APTs. Haven't had good luck with APTs in 1.5, mainly because the evade changes I'm taking advantage of. So I think it'll be external racks if I take it competitively after the World Cup and stuff.
Yeah. Not assault concussion missiles, because the one thing that occurs to me is if you're hitting a ship and its shields are down, you're getting those kind of criticals.
Yep, and that comes down to the experience that I've had in the World Cup. Is I'm having a hard time getting the ACM procs just like the APT procs.
Yeah.
And it's the difference in targeting. Like I don't want. I envisioned the TRC Scout as something that would throw a lot of damage on big ships, and it hasn't really needed to do that. And I've been wanting a different role. So ACM doesn't really tend to work too great against flotillas that I wanted this thing to be able to hunt. So it's just easier to take the external racks and just be done with it.
Yeah, it's extra
and
damage.
then the whole thing, yeah, extra damage. Just throw it when you need it on demand. I can throw it at a squadron if I really want to. It's a nice flexible upgrade. It's hard to say no to just 2 dice on demand.
And would on Jaina's Light, like I get the turbo laser reroute circuits, but on Jaina's Light, would you swap it for or ever swap it for LTTs just for murdering those squads?
Hell no. Hell no. Y'all, I know I've seen that a few times, but no, LTT is just it doesn't hold a candle to TRCs on 90 for me. I'm not trying to because here's the thing that means I'm not shooting a ship, and that I'm always shooting a ship. If I'm not getting a double arc on the CR90s, I'm doing something wrong. That's how the list does its damage. So if I'm not throwing every ounce of firepower at other ships, it's going to lose. Just plain and
Yeah.
simple.
Okay. No, that makes perfect sense.
And that's not to say that's a bad thing. Like Louis Andre's CR90, it serves a purpose. Like he has that
Mm-hmm.
LTT and engine techs to because he is a squad heavy list that wants to win the squad game fast and
Yep.
hard. And it is a dangerous little ship. But it's just in my list how I'm playing. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yep. I know that makes sense. No, yeah, it's a good insight. And with objective wise, like I presume, like, was it easy enough to figure out the objectives for this thing, or was it a lot of trial and
Yeah, the yellow and blue were pretty obvious off the bat because the big weakness I have is squadron points. Despite the fact that I've got 104 points in squadrons, you know, they're rogues and they're generic rogues that are gonna be at a disadvantage against like 134 points of squads.
Yep.
Rogue YT is a great squadron on its own, and it's able to flex, which is what I want from it. Is if I run into a low squad player, I throw Shara at the token screen, and then the YTs go and bomb things. But I'm not getting advantage from say a flight commander or any of the other benefits
Yep.
that come from being commanded during the ship phase. So I have to take the hit and then bounce back. So I like having the exos as kind of an extra little
Yep.
thing to help me out, prolong that squad fight, maybe win it. If not, oh well. Asteroid Tactics with Lando is just kind of a no-brainer. I end up playing Asteroid Tactics when I play objectives
Yep.
most of it. So it's nice, it's easy, it's not going to blow back in my face. Same with Invested Fields. I got the exos, I can move terrain around a little bit.
And you
The
start with a
red was a
points
little bit of,
advantage.
yeah, and the red was a little tougher, I should say, because
No
usually
flotilla.
just want most, yeah, no flotilla to throw most one. And so somebody convinced me to take a look at Ion Storm, and I've only played it once, and that was against Docta. And wow, oh my goodness, can you rack up the points on that thing? You just kind of you get to deploy all of the obstacles as you see fit. You can kind of delay when your own stuff gets the debuff or the objective token from not being around terrain because my ships all eventually got it, but it got to it just had that one turn delay, and then the TRCs on top of it to get that critical effect
Yep.
anytime I wanted. It's like, oh hey, 15 points for me. Oh hey, 15 points for me. Oh, it just kept racking up. It was ridiculous.
By the
Um,
way, do you run into the people who go, "Wait, TRCs can do the crit as well?" Still, because I still run
yeah,
into
I
people
know
like that.
it. Yeah, no, it's not something you tend to think about, but that's why I included the Ion Storm. Is that I could have the double, or I can have a critical that does an extra shield damage and gives me the freaking objective tokens from doing it. So it's like a net zero loss in damage so long as shields are up, and then just racks up the points.
I'm just wondering, with blue, like one sleeper for you might be instead of infested fields, volatile deposits.
It is one I have used to degrees of success. I think I went without it because I needed the squad help.
Yep.
And infested, despite being fairly loose, it can get flipped somewhat. It can get flipped without too much terrible effort because it's still something that dictates where you're gonna go.
But yeah, like infested field, I suppose volatile deposits is more of a less solid without the exogorts.
Yeah, and it's the exos I need. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty much a crutch. But they all work. They're not gonna blow up in my face. Um, yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Is I don't like the objectives to blow up in my face pretty easily.
Yeah.
Um,
No taking surprise attack where a Starhawk shows up in your deployment zone on turn 1, things
yeah,
like that.
that's no good.
I to be honest, that was one thing I was surprised there weren't more Radis in the Vassal World Cup or any.
None to speak of. I don't think there was any to speak of.
Raikkonen, I'm not surprised to kind of see the death of. He's too expensive now.
Yeah, he's a bit pricey, and I think that preferred. He was always best in heavy rebel squads, and with Yovaris in a shallow grave,
Holding
it's kind of
hands with
hard
Avenger.
and I think Agate's a big part of it. It's
Yeah.
hard to argue with Agate. I mean, I'm kind of seeing her as a little overrated, like Schmitty now, but she's still fantastic. She's still an excellent commander. And it's hard to argue how effective and how cheap, and she kind of infringes on a lot of the other rebel commanders. Yeah. Like at this point, like the big four, Dodonna's done. I mean, Agate just stole the entire niche. It's hard to see trying to make something out of that, out of Dodonna's credibility. Like you always took him because he was cheap, and Agate just. And then who else? Radis. I mean, some people still love him. I've seen Sam and Broba have some great like Radis Starhawk lists that are a lot of that. I've played them. They can be fun. But Radis at this point is kind of like a double large commander. If you don't like playing with double larges, you're not going to like playing with him.
Yep.
Because he's a lot more predictable than he used to be. So you're seeing him a lot less. So that kind of leaves basically. I think the big three you're going to see when we actually go to a primes from Rebels 8 Bar, because Bar continues to be unique.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's still good. Like I have a fun potato and 2 MC30 Akbar list that I really love flying. And then Cracken, because I mean, Cracken is, to me, he just seems head and shoulders above the other MSU commanders right now. If everybody starts taking turbo laser or quad turbo laser batteries, maybe that'll change. There's a lot of anti-cracking tech out there. And Remoti, I think, is like the boogeyman I never want to see across the table. Because that is just, that is negates my commander and adds more dice. That's not good.
Particularly if they get second and you don't.
Yes.
And then you're like,
yes. And I'm not bidding, so that's a distinct possibility.
Is second the new first, by the way? Have you been given first most of the time?
I have been given first a fair amount this tournament. I don't bid because I don't mind taking either or, but you're seeing a lot of that. It's interesting. I think I've watched some of Ed Newton's or Angry Ewoks game, and I think he is bidding for second. I think he's played second most of the time, and he seems to be doing really well with it. Because I think he just is able to lure people toward him into those horrible, horrible Akbar broadsides. It's with the pass mechanics as they are. Last first being, I've still gotten some of the last firsts in later rounds, but the ability to take it out of that first joust, I think, has been pretty key to kind of alternating. First or second being more advantageous. I still like having first player. That initiative is still nice, but second player is now perfectly acceptable. You don't have to have first player to win, and I think it's good for the game.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I suppose that leads back into the H defense because if you can get rid of the flotillas early, then the activation advantage swings back regardless of pass tokens. But no,
Yep.
no. So listen, this has been a great insight into the list. Listen, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us. Is there anything you want to plug beyond the Steel Strategy website and the Unnamed Armada podcast and the Discord? Is there anything else you'd like to remind people about?
No, that's all of them. We just come hang out on Discord. We have a lot of silly rules, and we're currently obsessed with Vikings and Valheim. Apparently, Schmitty is building. Schmitty is building buildings. I'm building castle walls. We're we can't seem to stop playing. Help us! Help us!
It's as wholesome. It's a wholesome hobby as anything else in this current state. Listen, thank you so much for taking the time anyway to have this chat, and best of luck in the Vassal World Cup.
Thank you, brother. You have a good one.
And we'll have links to the list down below and to the Vassal World Cup. So check out the list, check out the pod that Truithness got through, and sure, follow along. All right. Hope the apocalypse is treating everybody well, and talk to you soon.